Okay, so I've promised repeatedly that I was going to show you how to just use your own HTML, and I have a very quick way to do that. So right now, what I did was I took our last example and I just saved the HTML that it was running. So I just did Control U in Chrome, copied the HTML, and dumped it in a file. But importantly, where I dumped that file is in a file named index.html in a subdirectory called www. So there's my server.r function, and then in www, the directory called www, I put the file index.html. The index.html file, it has a lot of the preamble, most of which isn't necessary from the style, from the Bootstrap style that it gets from that package. Okay, so you can get rid of a lot of that stuff and just have the style be whatever you want. And maybe if you're not too familiar with working with web development, that sort of thing, what you can do is do exactly what I did. Start with a simple shiny page, output the HTML, use that as your starting point, and then build off from there. But I think if you're familiar with web development, you can just start with a straight index.html file, blank HTML file, and work from there. So the inputs just work just like regular old HTML input. So here I have input, ID equals box 1. So it's just ID is the label, just like we labeled it in the R UI.R file. Okay, so it works just like you would think. And then, so in this example, we had 3 boxes labeled box 1, box 2, and box 3. And so there's my input ID box 1. Here's my input ID equals box 2. And here's my input ID equals box 3. And all these div statements are because, Shiny, the Bootstrap uses this particular CSS style, and all these divs are these nice little blocky structures that you see when for the default style. Okay, and then for the output, like out here, right, you can just see that it's referencing out to, right? And then the important thing is the class, right? The class is shiny text output. Okay, so you can actually use an existing Shiny app, a Shiny prototype app, to get all these little things. Like, probably if you're used to web development, what you wouldn't have known of off the bat is that the output class was called Shiny text output. At any rate, this would give you, if you build a prototype, grab the HTML, this will give you enough to go on. And I think this will be pretty useful for you. So for example, now if I run my app, it should just look identical to what it was before because I just copied the same HTML, and of course you can see that it does look identical. So I think this will be very useful for the people who know a lot of web development, and I think when I talk to people who are in that camp, they certainly find using R as an intermediary for web development as quite annoying. So if you're in that camp, it's very easy to just use a straight HTML file rather than using R to actually put in your individual HTML elements.